Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Breakouts, a podcast where we interview extraordinary founders in just under 20 minutes. I'm your host, Akkshay Khosla. Now, you'll find many podcasts out there that are 2 to 3 hours long and interview these wildly successful founders after they've already made it big. But by that point, the founders are already 5, 10, or even 15 years into their journey, so their insights just aren't as actionable anymore. We're doing things a little bit different. We're interviewing founders that are on the cusp of breaking out so that you can learn the playbooks they're using to build category-defining companies today. And we're doing it in just under 20 minutes. Now, just before we get started, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and join our Discord community for aspiring founders. The link is in the description below. And I think that's everything I have for you. So without further ado, here's today's guest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Breakouts. Again, we have two phenomenal guests for you today who recently raised a 6.2 million seed round in the fintech space. We have Bai and Sahil Phadnis, the co-founders of Pebble.us. Now, just before we get started with this episode, what I'm going to ask from them is Sahil and Aaron, if you could give us just a brief description for those of our listeners that missed the first episode. What does Pebble do, and what problem are you guys solving?
Yeah. So Pebble is a crypto wallet abstracted in a neobank where we offer better benefits than traditional checking accounts. Take 5% APY, 5% cashback. You could pay your bills. We give a debit card in partnership with the MasterCard. We essentially allow you to do everything you could do with the bank account with Chase or Bank of America, but it's all crypto powered, and so you get much better benefits. What problem are we solving? Well, let's be honest. Today's finance, personal finance specifically, livelihoods, not very good. We don't get any upside. We get 0.04% APY. We barely get any cash back. We're in a pretty bad state considering financial technology is a gloated space. And so Pebble's here to actually solve the foundations of finance versus put Band-Aids on them like all these other fintechs have done.
Awesome. Sahil, thanks so much for that recap. But to our listeners who missed the first episode, I definitely encourage checking it out. You'll get a view into Sahil and Aaron's thoughts about the fintech and crypto industry and how they're going about navigating the space. And now in this episode, what we're going to talk about are essentially strategies, tactics, and hacks that you two have used to build your business and hopefully can be actionable for other aspiring entrepreneurs. The way we're going to carve up the episode is going to be in 4 sections. We're going to start off by talking about product and how you guys make product decisions. We're then going to jump into distribution. How do you guys acquire customers, right? Then we're going to talk a little bit about fundraising. It can be rather non-traditional to many early stage founders. And lastly, we'll talk about how you guys think about operationalizing your business. I'm a bit of an efficiency nerd myself, so I'm really excited for that section. But to get us started, let's talk a little bit about product. So you guys described, in the previous episode, your story in terms of how you faced this problem yourselves and then dived into it. I think what would be nice to get a drill down on is that in that process of building conviction, right? What are some strategies and tactics you employed to understand that, hey, we might have faced this problem, but we're actually very confident that a lot of people face it and then it's solvable. And we have significant enough conviction that we're going to drop out of school and go pursue it.
Absolutely. I think just like any dorm founded startup and even larger enterprise startups, problems are always coming from the founders themselves to get that initial excitement. Now's the time for me to go out there and build the next unicorn startup. And from there, while we were at UC Berkeley, we actually went around talking to a ton of students, professors, even our GSIs, which if you guys aren't from UC Berkeley, they're graduate students, classes, and we just started conversations with them. So a great example is the first week I moved into my dorm, I knocked on every single dorm room, and on the floor I went up and down stairs talking to everyone saying, hey, have you learned about decentralized finance? Hey, do you know what bank account you use? What credit card do you use? How do you feel about them? How do you feel about your current cashback, your checking account? And I think hearing their feedback and hearing their experiences, I would say we prioritize learnings over positive feedback, right? We cared more about hearing what they said they need versus saying, Aaron, you're absolutely right. Sal, you're absolutely right. And from there, we started developing our own pitch, our product and then started actually looking for that positive feedback saying, all right, you're on the right direction.
Really cool. I think being in that college environment when you're surrounded by so many people, it's definitely a great way to go out and do some user research. I'm curious, if we were to put a framework to this, right? Did you guys have any kind of framework in your head that, hey, we need to interview, for example, 100 people, and at that point we have significant enough data to drop out? Or was there some kind of traction metric you were looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question, Akkshay. So it's funny, right? I think too often what we realized, now that I reflect on it, is we try to create or instill frameworks that aren't necessary. And one of our mentors told us, dude, just go out there and casually talk to people. You don't need to have a number to it. You'll know when you have conviction, whether that's your first 5 interviews or whether that takes 1,000 interviews, you will know if an idea hits. And so me and Aaron decided to take it a step further. We thought, okay, I don't think talking is going to prove our conviction, because the problem with talking was no one knows DeFi in college. If I'm being totally transparent, people didn't know the difference between a checking and savings account. Grant, we are freshmen in college. I don't really expect them to. They probably just got their first account. So our data was very misconstrued. And so what we actually did was we went to the MBA program. So we walked every day. We would skip all our classes. Hopefully our professors aren't watching this. We'd skip all our classes. We'd go to the MBA program and we'd talk to them. And through going to the MBA program and talking to, these were the people who worked in the workforce. And these are people who actually understood crypto. It was a trending industry. People knew about it. And so those were the people we interviewed. And after a few interviews, people asked to be advisors. And so we were like, okay, whoa, people are actually excited about advising us to do this company. Maybe we've hit a gold mine here. And so that's really, we didn't really go in with the framework. We just wanted to talk to the right people, because I think that's a problem. If you pitch a fintech to a deep science nerd, he's not going to care. Why would he care about financial technology? But if you pitch a fintech to a financial technology enthusiast, you'll provide some great feedback. And so really it's finding out who you should interview versus interviewing a bunch of people at once.
I love that. So you guys identified which audience is going to be the best for your user research and then went and found them. I think that initial selection when you're conducting user research is very important, because if you index on the wrong audience, you're going to get the wrong insights. And it's an added benefit, of course, that the Haas campus is the best part of the Berkeley campus. So that's awesome. Cool. Well, let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about, given that in your product, you guys say that, hey, the number one value proposition to a user is that we have the best user experience and the best benefits as well, right? Typically, when you're building a product like this, it's not a function of a single feature that just goes and kicks ass. It's a combination of a few features. And I'm sure you guys always receive input from users about, hey, I want this new feature or that new feature. So how do you guys, in these early stages of building a startup where you have limited data, how do you go about making high quality decisions about what to build next?
Yeah, I think high quality decisions is definitely an interesting concept for any startup. We like to go about the phrase fail fast. So we talk to our users, we get their feedback on what they want us to build. We come together and we have a very small team. So we have a head of product, a head of engineering, and Sahil and I. We come around, we discuss, hey, what can this bring in terms of revenue? How much time and money will this cost to build? How will this integrate into our current user experience? Will it add an extra tab? Will it add an extra click? Will it take away from another feature? Right? And after having those initial discussions, we usually just build it. And it may sound very counterintuitive, but it goes back to saying that Salah said, just go out there and do it. And from there, if it's not working after 2 weeks, take it out. If more users are liking it, build it in a bigger and more fancy way. Make it an entire tab. Make it on the homepage. I think that's how we've approached all our features. And that's why when you do open your app, it may look different than it looked a week ago. For example, when you go to the cashback screen, at first, we didn't show any analytics on how much cashback you earned this week, this month, and all time. But just after a few weeks, after 1 or 2 people brought it up, we thought about it. We were like, let's do it. This could drive more revenue for us because now users are more excited. They feel that adrenaline. They're like, wow, I made $100 last week from Pebble. Let me use Pebble more. Put it in, and within 2-3 weeks, people are like, I love this new feature. I love looking at my data. And now we're putting in another tab that shows users all their data, not just cashback, but how much hours they spent, how much times they use their card, right? So as soon as we find that early traction with each product, we just take it to the next level.
That's really interesting. I think you can look at your ability to make high quality product decisions as a function of your product velocity, right? It seems like you guys have a very lean team. And, there's that saying that, hey, if you add like 10 more engineers to this, you're going to half your engineering velocity, right? So it's interesting to see kind of like a function of that, hey, if you guys can build so quickly and get it out, then that's actually a much more effective way based off of time invested to actually determine whether something works. It's the best ROI technique if you're able to do that.
100%. And to add on to what you said, Akkshay, is actually funny, right? The number one thing that we see every startup do, they raise a big seed round and they hire 5, 6, 7 different positions. And we fell prey to that as well. But what we realized is the reason you hire a bunch of people is because you're in a fever dream. Holy crap, we're going to make the next Amazon. Let's just keep hiring people. We're going to scale. It's going to be amazing. You don't foresee any loops, any bumps, and you think it's a moonshot. But the reality is it's kind of just like an ego thing. Like, oh, I want to be the boss of 10, 20, 30, 40 employees. And we fell prey to that as well. But what we quickly realized is our productivity shot down so much. It's like, do I really need a customer service person like me and Aaron? We'll grind it out. We'll call every customer. We'll take every phone call. Why pay someone else to do that? It adds more workflows. It adds more management. And so we realized it's truly, and it's something our YC partners would tell us, be lean. Hire slow, fire fast. That was the best advice we ever got.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And so you guys did have to go through some firing then, right?
Yeah. So we did.
Unfortunate mistakes for a first-time founder. And I think one of our more experienced founders gave us a really good piece of advice is you're not professional managers. In the first year or two, lean into what you do best. And for us, that's tech and product, right? So I think it goes back to my saying of fail fast, right? We failed fast.
Very cool. I love how you articulated that. Sahil, do you want to say that line one more time for us?
Yeah. Definitely hire slow and fire fast, because that'll make or break your startup.
Awesome. That's a great takeaway. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about distribution, right? So to get us started, could you guys articulate what is your current acquisition strategy? What are the different channels at play? How do they tie together? And then after that, we'll dive a little bit deeper.
Absolutely. So right now, we aren't doing any paid advertising. I think that's another big mistake startups tend to do because it doesn't actually show you how good your product is, how big your network effect is going to be, and how much people are willing to go out of their way, go through friction, and get on your product. What we've seen a big influx of crypto customers are actually through Discord. So at first, we didn't have a referral link inside our app. Another big mistake we realized as people were like, hey, how do I refer my friends? We soon added a referral link on our homepage, and we've seen people send it into their Discord groups, their NFT groups. So if you've ever seen a Pebble link come into your Campai Panda NFT group, that's because one of our users, part of that NFT group, sent there. And I think the value of that is playing into relationships. The problem with Instagram ads, Facebook ads, you don't feel personally connected to them, right? You don't see the Pebble logo and you're like, wow, that's my new best friend. Let me go out of my way and download the app and go through KYC. But when you see your fellow NFT holder, when you see your fellow trader, your fellow gamer post that link in there, you feel connected, and that's a trusted source of your friend to get on the app. So from there, we've grown our user base for our closed beta without much marketing spend, really.
Yeah, and I think the whole ethos here, or the whole thesis, rather, is organic over everything. Product market fit does not equate to buying a bunch of ads and generating revenue. That's something a lot of our peers told us, luckily, early on. And a lot of startups we see make a bunch of mistakes where they drop $1 million of advertising and they have 100,000 customers and they're like, yeah, we have product market fit. But then it's like, okay, turn off the ads and let's see how many people are jumping onto your app. And it's one of those, everyone knows the Facebook story. That's what product market fit is, right? It's, holy crap, where are these people coming from? When you ask yourself that question, that's when you know you've hit product market fit.
Really interesting. I like your guys' take on organic overpaid. Even within organic, right? For a consumer startup, people typically take either one or multiple of a number of different strategies. One is trying to engineer virality, right? And it seems like you guys are about to head down that direction. The second is SEO. The third is content creation. And there's a number of other strategies that startups employ at this stage. Out of the three that I've listed so far under organic acquisition, do you employ any, or are there any others?
Yeah. Number one, SEO. SEO is everything. And it's something we've done a notoriously bad job at. I'm not going to lie. It was one of those things that was in the back of our mind when we were launching. It's like, oh, I think a bunch of articles will give us enough. But the moment your hype dies down from press, you really, really need SEO. And it really hurt because people were not able to find us. You know, when you type Pebble, you find Pebble Watch, the YC company for us. And so it was like, oh, it's a watch company. I guess I was hallucinating or something. And so what we realized is like, man, that was like the big killer. It was like SEO is truly one of the biggest drivers for traffic. And I think it's one of the most important aspects when it comes to funneling customers. Content creation is another great thing. And I think content creation on emerging platforms. What's emerging platforms? TikTok. Instagram content creation isn't going to have the same ROI as TikTok because TikTok's in a growth stage right now. They're still a very early, quote-unquote, social media application, and so they're going to be more friendly with their algorithms. They're going to make one or two of your videos go viral in front of everyone's eyes so you can stay on their application versus Instagram. They've made a lot of money. They want you to pay them to make or have an ROI for yourself. And so I think those two things combined are really great user acquisition strategies for free that you can employ.
Very interesting. I'm curious, are there any kind of novel techniques that you guys have come up with, or any hacks that you guys are particularly proud of?
Yeah. So, were you going to say something? I saw you smiling, so I was like...
You got it.
Yeah. So, when it comes to our platform, I think that's another big mistake we made when it came to distribution in the very beginning. Much like SEO, we were like, maybe engineering virality will interfere with user experience. And soon we found out user experience doesn't matter if it's not going viral and people don't know about it. So what we've done is we've created our own point system within our platform, and we call it Pebbles, right? So you're on Pebbles,
nice.
You're making Pebbles, and with Pebbles, you can soon do a lot of different things, which we'll announce shortly. And referrals are now tied very closely with Pebbles. And the way we like to pitch it is by bringing value to the Pebble platform, you can earn some Pebbles and be part of that value creation, be part of our growth, be part of our future. And a lot of plans coming soon, but if you understand crypto, I think you get where we're going there.
So you guys think there might be a token coming?
We can't say that legally, but we can say that there will be value behind your points. Not traditional value like an Amex point, but there'll be an actual asset behind it. We can't disclose what that asset is, but there is going to be a lot of utility in those Pebbles we distribute.
Very cool. I'm excited, guys. This sounds really interesting. Shifting gears over to fundraising. So fundraising is one of those things where, you know, for founders that are doing it their first time, they're kind of like, this is not like product work. This is not like distribution work. It's just very, very different, right? We've had a few founders come on and give some pieces of advice about fundraising. I'm curious if you guys had to offer one tip that you thought was unconventional that other founders might not have said already. One piece of advice for early stage founders that are fundraising for the first time. What would you say?
I can go first. So here's how I'll approach this answer, Akkshay. I'll go with the general theme or like the general answer. I'll give you an example. So the general answer here is be bold. When you're fundraising, just be bold. And I'll give you a great example here. So in order to generate enough credibility, quote unquote, as new coming founders in the fintech space, we went around campus, we went to Twitter, we went to literally everyone, we went to coffee shops, Uber drivers, and we asked them if they would be interested in earning 5% APY, 5% cashback, and having a liquid checking account for their money, which is, if you can guess, our product today. But this was back before we even built a product, before we raised a dime. And from those people, we've collected tens of thousands of dollars by having them Venmo Sahil or me money and pretending to be their Pebble app. Obviously, they know what they're getting into, but that was our initial hack. And on Twitter, I started cold DMing people to see if they would be interested in participating in our program and being our MVP user, hence Venmoing us. One of the guys I called up on Twitter, I called him up, I asked him, hey, we're building this product, 5% APY, 5% cashback, liquid checking account. If you Venmo us money, we'll be your MVP. And his response was, I'm not too interested in sending you money, but I'm interested in being your first angel check. And that was exactly how our first ever money came into our business bank account. So I think that answer just tells you, you need to be bold. Call up people on Twitter and ask them for money. Obviously, I'm saying don't ask them for money as in like, invest in me, but ask them for money for our MVP. That was our product. Whatever your product is, gear it towards that, right? Call up someone on Twitter. Do you want to be my MVP user? Go out of your way and be different. I think that was our key takeaway.
I think that's really cool. One way you could articulate it is not just be bold, but make a little bit of noise. Don't be out there just in your room all alone, coding away at an app with your co-founder. Interact with people as much as possible because those interactions will yield opportunities that you don't anticipate.
Exactly. And I'd say from my point of view, I think the best fundraising advice I could give you, and it's something that most people will never give you, and something that saved me and Aaron was raise as much as money as you possibly can. And here's the thesis why. Now, this only applies if you're a first-time founder. If you know what you're doing, you might not need $10 million to build a product. But if you don't know what you're doing, one of our closest mentors who has ran 2 successful startups now, close to unicorn valuations, that was the first thing he ever told me and Aaron when we started raising. And he said, you two are going to make so many mistakes in your entrepreneur journey. The difference between a business is if you have money in the bank. If you make too many mistakes, you're going to be dead. And so don't go with this fixed mindset where, oh, I'm raising a $2 million round, nothing higher, or I'm raising a $3 million round, I'm not going to accept a check. He said, take as much as money because that gives you the ability to make as many as mistakes as you possibly can because you're going to make a lot. I made a lot. Fortunately, I had enough in the bank account to make enough mistakes to be alive and fight through it all. And that was the single-handedly the best advice we had ever received, in my personal opinion.
It seems like you guys have some phenomenal mentors. They have these amazing one-liners that really stick with you, huh?
I think our mentors came from us being bold and putting ourselves out there. I would say maybe 50, 60% of our mentors came from cold Twitter DMs, cold outreaches. Another 50% came from us sitting in the middle of the Haas campus and calling people over and asking them about a product, asking them to Venmo us some money from MVP.
I love it. That's awesome. Moving over to our last section here, right? Operationalizing your business. How do you guys make sure that you are operating efficiently, you're not making the same mistakes again, and you're documenting that process as you go? Along those lines, what are 1 to 2 strategies you employ, right?
Yeah. So how we generally do product management is on a ticket basis, right? So we used to use Jira. We now use Linear just because it's a lot UI friendlier. But I like to look at things from a pure output point. I think what we realized was having too many conversations a day kills productivity. That's something startups are prey to, is like, hey, let's have a meeting to talk about this. And next hour, let's talk about this. And it's like, look, if I want to code, let me get in the zone for 5-6 hours and go at it. And so what we realized was like, we have one stand-up meeting every day to recap. And what we recap isn't necessarily what we speak about. What we recap is the physical output. Let me see how many tickets you completed. Let me see your code. We do code reviews, all that good stuff, right? Because that, at the end of the day, you could talk a lot, but you need to be able to walk as well. And so we're very focused on output, on physical, tangible output versus, I guess you could say, the filler stuff like meetings and the boring and not fun part about building a business.
Absolutely. And another thing that we employ, and I think this came from the hiring process as well, is our team is very competitive. Whether it's between each other or just between last week's tickets and this week's tickets. Every Tuesday, we start a new cycle of tickets, and we always like to see how did we do last week and how do we beat that record, right? And even between engineers, whether it's customer support tickets or engineering tickets or product tickets, design tickets, we're like, that guy's killing it. How do I be better, right? And I think being competitive both internally between yourselves and also against other companies, right?
So I'm going to take away 3 things there for our listeners. The first is try to have some friendly competition. It can work in your favor. Obviously not to an unhealthy level, but some friendly competition, it can work wonders. The second is in terms of measuring outcomes, try to measure them quickly and try to be specific about them. So in your guys' case, you guys use Jira tasks, right? And you talk more about what you did rather than, what you're planning to do or some problems that you face. You talk about what output that you had. And the last one, which I love, is try not spending too much time in meetings. If you guys have read Rework, they talk a lot about this, but meetings can be some of the worst things you can do towards productivity. If you're in one meeting with 4 people, that is 4 hours of productivity that you cost just with the meeting. If you tack on the context switching time and time to refocus, you're probably looking at anywhere from 6 to 8. I love it. I love all 3 tips that you guys gave. And I think with that, we're running a little long. So we're going to wrap up the episode. Right before we wrap up, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity one more time. You guys recently raised a 5.8 million seed. What are you guys looking to do? Is there anything you want to plug? The stage is yours. Feel free.
Absolutely. And we said it on the last episode. We're glad to be back and say it again. Sahil and I want to talk to you about your financial experiences, get you into our closed beta, answer your questions, have a one-on-one onboarding. We're here to interact with any of our viewers. So feel free to follow us. My username on Twitter is @AaronBai, AARONBAII.
Yeah, and sign up. I think you forgot the most important part. Sign up to our website, pebble.us, PEBBLE.us, and my Twitter is @SAHILPHADNIS4. Feel free to DM us, and looking forward to onboarding potential customers.
There you heard it, folks. Check these guys out. Follow Aaron and Sahil on Twitter. Check out their website at pebble.us. And definitely follow these guys. I have a gut feeling that we're looking at the next Alexander Wangs of the tech industry. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Aaron, Sahil, thank you so much for being on the pod. We'll catch you all next time on the Breakouts. All right, and that wraps up today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Now, just before I let you go, I wanted to reiterate one thing. We're trying to build the best podcast out there for aspiring entrepreneurs, and to do that, we need your help. The best way you can help us is by joining our Discord community. The link is in the description below, and then leaving us feedback. Tell us how we did. Tell us how we can improve. We're eagerly waiting to hear from you. Other than that, show us some love and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod. And I think that's everything I have for you. We'll see you next time on The Breakouts.